Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop. Oh.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Because nobody else will do it, I'll have to take charge. Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Glad to have you along with us, no matter where and how you're listening. Maybe on one of our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, the Ref, always the right call down in Evansville, and up in the region on the Voice of the Region, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJOB, and in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan. Or if you're following along on YouTube or however else, we appreciate you no matter what. If you are on social media, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and all that stuff. Hit, dot. Takes you 2 seconds, but it means a lot to us. Appreciate you. Plenty to get to on the program today. Dylan Sinn cannot be with us, unfortunately. He had to cancel late, but Cal Neddenriep will join us, and Rick Bozich, who yesterday it was announced that Rick is going to be retiring. So I don't know if you saw the thumbnail that we made, but got him in a rocking chair. I'm sure that he's going to still do things, but it's going to be interesting to see how much he scales back, and he won't have to do the travel and those sort of things. That's probably the biggest part that he wants to get away from, and having to be tied down to all the events that go on, because they are many and continue to go on year round. Now it's a year round thing. It just doesn't slow down, but 50-year career. He's a Hall of Famer in multiple Hall of Fames. U.S. Basketball Writers Association Hall of Fame, the biggest one, but Indiana Sports Writers and Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame. There's another one as well. But Jim, I appreciate you. Jim Pell hitting us up on the hotline on the YouTube side of things. Haven't seen you for quite a while, but glad to have you along. And as Las Vegas Larry, safe travels back to Sin City, and appreciate everybody else. Tom asking, will Rick still be coming on the show? That's a great question. I'll find out today. He doesn't have to promote WDRB anymore, so I certainly hope so, because I've got to tell you, and I'll tell this to Rick when he's on with us, but I love all of our and respect all of my guests that I'm so fortunate to have come on. But Rick is the one person that I look forward to talking to each week. He is a veteran. He is schooled in all sports. He has been around for a minute. He has seen it, and but he has managed to get through it. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get through being a columnist and not having people really dislike you? And I know that he was, based out of Louisville, so he covered Indiana, covered Louisville, covered Kentucky. And Louisville fans would probably, I think they thought that he was pro Kentucky, and Kentucky fans vice versa. But I look forward to talking to him about it today and see what all he's got going on. Brett, another name. Hey, how are you, brother? Appreciate you joining us as well. Says Signetti and the Indiana staff are on fire every day. They've been getting a commitment from a player. Yes, they have. And it just continues. The latest is safety LaRon Dews, a 2026 three-star. Hank trying to help out with the broadcast today. The Hoosiers, they've been on a roll. I think they're up to 12 commitments now, I believe, but they're just getting them in droves right now. And I think they have moved up to the top 30 in the country, number 10 in the Big Ten. So they're doing it with I've said this all along. It's an upgrade. These are 3 and 4 star guys, and 3-star guys, they're NFL capable. So, and Kurt Signetti and his staff have done a remarkable job, not just in Indiana, prior to that, of identifying and developing talent. That is not something that you always have, but they have both of those things. And I think that a lot of these recruits are seeing that they saw that. They see all these guys that came in to Indiana from these mid-level schools and all the questions that were thrown at them. Oh, these guys, they're going to be able to compete in the Big Ten, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. How about some All-Americans? A bunch of them. So, they see that, and they see the opportunity, and they see the opportunity to go play for a winning program now. Indiana is not a flash in the pan. This is not because I cover Indiana. If you listen to me, this show, you know, I say what I think most of the time, and that's whether it's good or bad or whatever. But I've been on the football train almost immediately, and there's no slowing it down, and the recruiting is just backing it up. They have to do it again this year, of course, but I'm confident that another fun season is at hand for Indiana football fans. And the basketball is taking a tick up as well. Shenanigans says, hey to Hank. Basketball, they are getting the visits left and right. And we'll talk later about an exclusive interview that you can find at thehoosier.com. It's free, by the way. Serbian wing Aleksa Ristic, the latest addition to Indiana's basketball roster. Alec Lasley doing an incredible job getting an exclusive interview with him and his agent, talking to him. And he's a guy that's going to be great for Indiana's future. Now, you never know how long they're going to be around, unfortunately, but he's got the goods, and he's someone that is probably, I'm not saying he's going to play a ton this year. There's just so many guards, that would be hard to believe, but you never know. It's whoever's the best, whoever comes out, but he can play the 1 or the 2, and he can fill it up from outside. He shot nearly 39% from behind the arc, and in the Serbian league that he played in. But we're getting Darren DeVries is going all in on the roster that he has, and it's to question him now. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it would be like questioning Kurt Signetti. He obviously has a plan on what he's going to do with the roster that he has right now. Of course, they have the visit also going on with the we're talking about an international flavor here with the 7'3" Italian guy. Just think if they had dinners each night from where everyone was from, that would be interesting. But the college basketball, I talked about this a week or so ago, is going to become just really, there is going to be an influx of foreign players. and it's because of the money. It's because of the money. They have been playing in those leagues over in Europe and then just trying to work their way up. But hell, they can come here and make much, much better money than they can in those leagues. So you're going to see a continuous influx that I talked about. The agent for Jokovic for Denver, who is now expecting to bring over between 35 and 50 college players this year alone. And that's just going to grow. And so expect to see more of it on it's probably going to be on virtually every team. Because if you just think about the Big Ten right now, we know that Michigan has a foreign player. Let's see, does Illinois have any foreign players? Kidding, they've got a ton of them. But let's see, who else? There was somebody else in the Big Ten that had a big foreign player. Can't think of who that was right now. But I also saw a story about Xavier Booker, that transferred, a former Indiana 5-star player from Indiana high school, that is, at least. But he transferred to UCLA. And a little surprise coming out of there. He's played the 4 the whole time that he was at UCLA, at Michigan State. But now he's expected to play center. So, from Spartans Wire, it appears former Spartan Xavier Booker will be making a position change with his new team next season. John Rothstein shared an interesting tidbit on Booker Tuesday, which may come surprising to many who follow Michigan State. According to Rothstein, Booker will transition from playing power forward, the 4 spot, to center, the 5, with UCLA. This is notable because Booker had primarily played power forward for the Spartans during 2 seasons at Michigan State, with some believing he had no desire to play center. Indiana's going to see him again, so that's just interesting to know. That is UCLA going a little smaller. I think I can't remember. I think he's 6'9", Booker, from my memory, and so you've got Purdue with Trey Kaufman-Renn at 6'9", and if Booker's playing center for UCLA, and I believe he's 6'9", this could be Indiana could be a little more opportunistic than some people might think. And if they can fill it up from outside, well, hey, who knows? That 3 ball changes a lot. We'll see how it goes for them. But lots going on in the college basketball world without question, as I should say. So been kind of bouncing around a little bit. We've got football going. It's just so much right now. You've got everything happening with these basketball visits and football commitments going on. Indiana has been very, very busy. Darren DeVries has been very busy. They had the team camps last weekend, and the entire staff was omnipresent at all of the games, bouncing around. Now, every time that Jason Gardner Jr. played, Darren DeVries was camped out at the basketball goal stanza that holds it up, just underneath of there, so he could be seen. So 5 is not a fan of Booker. Yeah, he hasn't performed well. He just hasn't done much. So we'll see. Yeah, Fred says the Hurricane Hoosiers. I think that that label may be revived, not in reality, but in what you see on the floor. So I think that you're going to see a team that gets up and down the floor and shoots the lights out of the ball. And, I was thinking about the 7-footer from Italy. If they got him, he would be kind of a really different piece to what they're doing. And I'm like, how, would he be able to fit in? Would he be able to get up and down? Because they are going to get up and down the floor. Would he be able to do that? So I don't know. He would be there for a lot of rebounding and some block shots on the defensive end. But for a team that's going to be shooting the amount of 3-pointers that we expect Indiana to be shooting, there's going to be a lot of long rebounds. So all of that going on. More to talk about. Several college athletes have filed an appeal in regards to the House case, and more additions to the Assembly Ball basketball team. 9-game schedules versus 8 SEC and Big Ten. Talk about that as well. Plenty coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios, high atop Rock House number 1. Back with more after this.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Wednesday. Glad to have you. The weather been a little wonky. It was supposed to rain a ton, but really hasn't rained as much as we thought. But let me tell you what's coming. Heat. I saw that while the temperatures are going to ratchet up to the 90s, the heat index may go well above that. So we'll certainly see that. David P says, I think Indiana basketball might look like the Iowa offense with a way better defense. Well, I'm going to disagree with you there. Iowa's not going to, they're going to score in the 50s, I think. That's what Ben McCollum's teams have done thus far. They're more about running that half-court offense and passing the ball and getting the shot off that they want, way more deliberate. I think that Indiana is going to get up and down the floor a lot more, and they're going to be putting up 3-pointers because they're playing small ball in a way, not really, because they just don't have the depth at the 5. But we'll see. It's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Darren DeVries has planned. I'm not going to pretend that I do. 5 says Ristic has him intrigued. Yeah, me too. I mean, he's a youngster, but he's been playing with the big boys. He's been playing when those guys over there. It's like you could add a couple of years to what they've done. Oh, David meant the the old Iowa offense. Yeah, I'm not sure if it'd be quite that, but yeah, maybe not quite that, but with the defense that you mentioned that Iowa did not offer under Fran McCaffrey. Yeah, that didn't work out too well. You know, if you can beat everybody 90 to 80 every game, it would be great, but they were not able to get that done. So we'll see how that works out for them. Let's see. Oh, a lot. And how about the Fever game, man? Well, sparks flying. I think a couple of I don't want to call them fights, but some hair pulling. It kind of makes me laugh. It's like a WWE match. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make fun, but and then Caitlin Clark got knocked to the ground. It's just funny how this stuff is happening. It's kind of ridiculous. It looks dumb. They look dumb. I don't know if they realize that they're kind of making a mockery of what they're doing. And it's not that they're not allowed to fight or whatever. Yeah, I mean, if it calls for it, but the eye test, you can just tell by the eye test how some things go. Andy says, time for somebody on the Fever to become James Johnson. Get it, get going with it. 5 says the Fever better take some boxing lessons. You know, they may want to take some taekwondo or something, because they're gonna become an atom all year. That's the thing. When you don't have the talent, you have to find other ways. And I'm not saying it's the right way, but sometimes it's the hack-a-shack, or trying to intimidate, trying to set a tone, trying to get into players' heads, trying to, do all that stuff, which it's after a while it becomes ridiculous. I will say this: the person that I have always been amazed at that was able to never really fall into that or get involved in that in the sport that promotes it the most, hockey. How many fights you ever remember hearing of or seeing Wayne Gretzky in? It just didn't happen. I'm not saying it never happened, but I'm going to go with it was partly a tremendous respect for him. But think about that. Everybody in hockey is always fighting. Not Wayne Gretzky. He was able to stay, we think about NBA, didn't matter. All those guys got into some battles. Larry Bird, Dr. J, just always. But yeah, they just need to clean that up. If they're going to grow it, you got to clean it up, man. You can't have that goofiness. Tennessee's big man, Zakai Ziegler. He's not a big man. I think he was a shooter. But he applied for a 5th year to play, even though he had played 4 years. And his argument was nothing. He could make $2 to $4 million, and it was preventing him from doing that. There's no reason for him to have a 5th year. It's just that he thinks that there's no reason for him not to have a 5th year. Or that's the argument of the attorneys. And luckily, a federal judge denied that. And it's going to be appealed. But if that were to fail, then what? You can play college basketball for 10 years? I mean, players are really there's enough going on that's bad, that's screwed up with all this stuff right now, trying to get it while they're trying to get it fixed. The players are making it way worse. Way worse. This kind of stuff, this is frivolous. This is ridiculous. Get the hell out of here with that. You had 4 years. You didn't get hurt and lose a year. You had 4 years. You don't get 5. You don't get 6. You get 4. That's how it's set up. What a waste of time and just everything. And then on top of that, the house case settlement that just settled, that's going to be paying all the athletes. Multiple appeals went out on that. But I think the biggest one was several college athletes filed an appeal claiming the deal violates Title IX law. Now, Title IX is basically in place to make sure that men's and women's sports get the same things, scholarships, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have anything to do with this. But they're trying to make it a part of that. It's kind of like the U.S. women's soccer team. Very popular in the United States. The U.S. men's national soccer team. The women's were successful, uber successful. They won the Gold Cup. But they wanted equal money that the men were getting. The thing is, the money paid to each was based on the television revenue for each. And therefore, their pot was their pot. The men's was theirs. It had nothing to do with the men's team not being as good, not being as popular, not being as successful. It's just what it is. It's life. There are people that have jobs that make more money than other people. It's life. I mean, everybody has their hand out now. There's some of the lawsuits are from the athletes that are getting paid back to 2016, I think. And there's still lawsuits going on. Everybody has their hand out right now. This is, the dam has broken and it's not water that's coming out. It's greenbacks. Greenbacks are flying. Well, they're flying all right, but everybody else wants a piece of it. Attorney John Clune told ESPN he filed the claim I was just talking about in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on behalf of several clients who also raised objections to how back payments would be shared among athletes this year. You're lucky to get anything. You are lucky to get anything. I mean, yeah, it would have been great if this would have been in place when you were there, but it wasn't. The fact that they're paying any back pay is amazing to me. How'd you like to be a 2015 athlete? You get a big old fat zip. Nada. Zero. Again, it's life. Life, people. But that's what's going to go on. This is another, to me, it's another frivolous lawsuit. It's crap. Waste of time. Just trying to, I don't know if we're ever going to get through all this stuff. I'm sure eventually we will, but it's just nuts. Brett Bielema of Illinois, he wants 9 league games for all conferences. I've talked about this yesterday, and I agree. Now, if you're not going to do that, then the Big Ten should go back to 8, and the Big Ten and the SEC can have crossover games. That would be the 9th game. But these conferences have to be on the same level playing field. The Big Ten they play 3 non-conference games, then 9 conference games. And I don't care who you're playing. A conference game is just tougher, especially when you're on the road. Illinois coach Brett Bielema wants to see college football playoff expand to 16 teams in 2026, but only if all major conferences, including the SEC, play 9 games per season. He was speaking a couple days ago, or yesterday, before the Illini night at Wrigley Field. He said the 16-team model doesn't necessarily need to include 4 automatic spots for the Big Ten teams, as Ohio State coach Ryan Day advocated earlier this month. But Bielema, who coached in the SEC at Arkansas and has spent most of his career in the Big Ten, said both leagues need to be aligned in the number of conference games. Of course they do. It's a huge difference. It is an absolute huge difference. And the SEC is holding on to those because that is one more home game. And it can be another jelly roll game where they play Troy or whomever it is they're going to play. Now, that is not always the case. Sometimes they actually play solid teams. But you look at Ohio State. They have played Texas as one of their non-con games. That means they only had 2 other non-conference games on top of their Big Ten schedule. So we'll see how it works out. We'll talk to Rick about it when he joins us later. Zach Browning should be joining us next. We'll talk some about the commitments that IU has been flying in, man. Commitments, offers, it's so hard to keep up with. I mean, the team at on3.com, the Hoosier.com is killing it. Like I said, they got the exclusive interview with Aleksa Ristic and much more. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. I hope you are having a good start to your week. You've hit the midway point, so it's all downhill from here.
Looking forward to talking to Rick Bozich today, Mr. Retirement, Mr. Rocking Chair. I don't know if you guys were able to see the thumbnail for the show, but put him in a rocking chair. If you're following on social media, hit the like button for us. We'd appreciate that as well. And Zach Browning should be joining us from the Hoosier.com, as a matter of fact, to talk about. There's so much going on both sides. It's hard to keep up with it. And I am not kidding. The offers that have gone out from IU basketball, tons. Zach Browning from the Hoosier.com joining us now. Zach, I was just talking about, there's so much going on right now. You need a scorecard and the Hoosier.com to keep up with it, between the offers going out on IU basketball and the visits and commitments on the IU football side. It has been one of the most popping times I can recall in recruiting for both teams at the same time.
Yeah, Jim, this is kind of like what the month of June is around Indiana athletics. You've got the football kind of side of things where it's June, obviously. So that means a lot of different things. Obviously, in June on the football side, you're looking to kind of close out the current class and kind of build out and finish really that current class for the Hoosiers. That's that 2026 class, really trying to build that out, finish it, and round it into shape. I think the fact that the House settlement was passed a couple of weeks ago has kind of given a lot of college coaches, especially Kurt Signetti, he talked about it at Huber's, kind of a little bit more clarity on what he's looking for in the 2026 class as far as quantity and as far as numbers are concerned. So I think with that more clarity on that side, you're seeing a lot of guys visiting in the 2026 class, a lot of guys committing in the 2026 class as Kirsten really tries to round out that class. But also then you've got on June 15th, college coaches are officially allowed to reach out directly to the class of 2027. So you've got a lot of that going on as well, a lot of offers, a lot of, reaching out maybe for the first or second time, specifically directly to that recruit in the class of 2027. And then, of course, on the basketball side, visits, AAU, you've got a lot of high school tournaments coming up this weekend and the past couple of weekends and moving forward as well. So a busy, busy time just on the recruiting side, the 2026 class, but also the 27 class as well. A lot of moving pieces, a lot of things working behind the scenes for both Indiana basketball and Indiana football.
Yeah, the offers on the basketball side, and which offers don't mean a lot, granted, but these seem very specific. A lot of elite players, without question, but I can just get a sense that Indiana basketball, especially next year, is going to take a step up, just like Indiana football is right now with this recruiting class that is now a top 30 recruiting class, and Kurt Signetti is building it on a Kurt Signetti style class. These 3 and 4 star guys that I'm sure back when he was at James Madison, they were probably 1, 2, and 3 star guys. But they and his staff have a great ability at identifying talent and developing talent. And I mentioned earlier in the show that, all you got to do is look at the guys that came from James Madison. They became All-Americans playing in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Darren DeVries. We'll start on the basketball side because of what Chris Signetti did last year. The expectations are just naturally kind of going to be raised for Darren DeVries because Chris Signetti was able to come in year one of taking over the football program and lead them to the college football playoff. So if you're Darren DeVries, the expectation is probably going to be a little higher. Indiana's not going to be led to the equivalent of the college football playoff on the basketball side of things. I'd highly doubt that Indiana makes a Sweet 16, Elite 8, whatever you want to make the equivalent for on the basketball side there. So the expectation is probably going to be a little bit higher just because of what Darren DeVries did. But I think Indiana basketball will be good, and this will be kind of a long process. Obviously, this is going to be an entirely new roster this upcoming season, unless Luke Goody / Anthony Lowe gets that waiver, which is still pretty much up in the air right now. But it's going to be an entirely new group, and there's not going to be those 13 group of JMU transfers that come over on the basketball side. You've got Tucker DeVries, that's really the only one that came over with there. And obviously, Connor Enright has some familiarity with the coaches, or with Darren DeVries, and with that style of play as well. But there's not those group of JMU transfers that's coming over that understands the system, that's going to be able to explain it really to everybody else. It's really Tucker DeVries, and that's it. So basketball, yes, they'll be good. I think the expectations might be just slightly higher than they probably should be, given what Curt Cignetti did last year and year one. But you're exactly right, Jim, on the football side. Curt Cignetti, it's what he called at Hubers, a higher caliber of guy. I mean, Indiana in the past has been the 2-star school, the 3-star school, a lot of unranked guys. And Curt Cignetti and Indiana have not been that so far this year. There's been a handful of 4 stars, even 4 stars. And what stands out to me, 4 stars in kind of hotbed areas. I mean, you specifically, a guy that comes to mind when I'm talking about that is Henry Olinger, a 4-star athlete. He's from Columbus, Ohio. So Curt Cignetti, the Hoosiers, they went into Ohio State's backyard and said, you know what, we're going to take this guy. They plucked him right out of Ohio State's backyard. They're competing right now for Luke Fahey with Stanford and with Ohio State. Jaquaden Guilford, the top-ranked recruit in the state of Indiana, has offers. He was a Penn State commit first off. He has offers and is down to Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio State, as well as another school there. So these are top-tier high school guys. You look at Jarion Campbell, the recent running back commit. He had a lot of SEC offers. Indiana's commitment yesterday from LaRon Dews, he had an offer list of around 20 to 25 schools. So as Curt Cignetti said at Hubers, this is a higher caliber of guy. And as you mentioned, Jim, we've seen what this Indiana coaching staff, we've seen what the Hoosiers can do with the quote-unquote lesser talented guys, the 0-star guys, the guys that weren't really recruited out of high school. We've seen what Curt Cignetti can do with those. I mean, Aiden Fisher is one of those guys. Zach Horton last year, Mikhail Kamara, D'Angelo Pons. Those are those quote-unquote lesser talented guys, and now they're all American caliber guys. So we'll see what these 3 stars, these borderline 4 stars, these actual 4 stars are able to do. Obviously, it'll take some time. These kids still won't get on campus for around another year.
No, and something else is that Indiana has started to do in recruiting is flip guys and flip them from big programs. They flipped the wide receiver from Illinois back to Indiana. Then more recently, the edge rusher that was committed to Louisville, coming to Indiana. Both of those in-state guys too, which is very important. And there are some other big-time players that are out in the state that they would certainly like to nab.
Yeah, and I think that's been a key part for Indiana. And of course, you focus typically on the basketball side. You're talking about recruiting the state of Indiana. You're typically talking about that on the basketball side of recruiting. But Curt Cignetti and his staff have done a fantastic job of recruiting the state of Indiana. You look at some of the top-ranked recruits in the state. Obviously, Indiana has Casimir Hicks committed. He's a defensive back. He's currently ranked number 2, had been ranked number 1 according to On3 for the longest time before Guilford overtook him, and is now ranked the number 1 recruit in the state of Indiana. But it's not just those two. You go down the list a little bit. The number 7 ranked recruit in the state is Trevor Gibbs, a Crown Point kid. He's committed to Indiana. Blake Smith, a kid from Franklin, he's committed to Indiana at number 9. That's 3. And then depending on what Guilford's decision is here in a couple of weeks' time, Indiana could be looking at a 3 or 4 potential player top 10 ranked recruit in the state of Indiana class. And that's something that Indiana has really never done. I think if I remember correctly, you have to go back. I think Tyler Cherry's class was the last time Indiana had anybody in the top 10 in the state of Indiana as far as the recruiting rankings are concerned. And I think it was 2022, that Desan McCullough class, where Indiana had multiple players ranked inside the top 10 inside of the state of Indiana. So it's not only just talent in the state. This is a good class for the state of Indiana, but there's a lot of quantity to it. And that's what Curt Cignetti has really done. He's mixing the quality. He's got the 4 stars, but he's also got 18 guys currently committed, and Indiana's still got a handful of commitments that are likely to come. And if you just scroll even further down the list of the in-state guys in the 2026 class, there's Kobe Cherry, who Indiana likes, and Cherry's high on Indiana. You've got a lot of guys on this list, that have some sort of connection with Indiana, and that's where you kind of got to start. You kind of got to build off. If you are going to get those guys, we talked about Henry Olinger from Columbus, if you're going to land those types of guys, you have to build that foundation of the in-state kids first, and that's what Curt Cignetti and the Hoosiers have done.
And I know that it's not something that it means a lot on paper, but getting that first 5-star recruit is going to be a big deal for Indiana because they've never had one. And now that doesn't mean that they're going to turn out and be, the best player Indiana has ever had. But what that does is that opens yet another crack in the recruiting, where right now it has risen up to where it is now, where they're a top 30 class because of the guys they're able to draw in. And they're just, it's like, boy, there's a piece of paper between getting through that next level. It really feels like.
And it's what Kirsten has said, recruiting and all of that stuff, those doors are kind of opened by success. He said it 4 or 5 times last year to the media, whether it was post-game, whether it was a midweek availability, that success on the football field opens up doors on the recruiting side of things. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And this is after just year 1 of what Coach Cignetti and the Hoosiers were able to do. Obviously, a college football playoff appearance. What Indiana did last season was special on the football side of things. And, Indiana and Kirsten are taking full advantage of that. And I think what is even kind of more important in this kind of instance is Kirsten said at Huber's, I can't remember the exact quote, but he said that last year's class, the 2025 class, when he was out on the recruiting trail, obviously mostly transfers in that class. But last year's class was kind of built on predictions or projections, on promises of Indiana being good. And obviously Indiana ended up being really good last year. But he said this year's class, the 2026 class that he's building out now and future classes as well, is being built on proof because it's not a promise anymore. He promised last year to those 2025 kids that Indiana would be good, that Indiana would be successful, that he'd, like he has done everywhere in his college coaching career, be successful. So that was promises, and he built that class on those promises. But this year is different. This year it's not promises because he has proof. He has the 10-2 season he can point to. So he said this year's class is being built on the proof of what last year was and that success, and that can be sustainable. So I think we're starting to see a little bit more buy-in. That's where the 4-stars come in. That's where the state of Indiana recruits. When you're looking at a kid in the state of Indiana, you've got a couple of in-state options. If you're looking to stay home, you've got IU, you've got Purdue, Ball State there too. Ball State in a MAC school. You've got Purdue, who didn't win a game against an FBS team last year. So when you're balancing those kind of options versus a team that made the college football playoff, unless you have really specific allegiances to West Lafayette or Muncie, Indiana's looking like the much better option over a Purdue or a Ball State, or, maybe not a Notre Dame unless the kid wants to go that far north all the way up to South Bend. But that's besides the point. If you're looking at IU and Purdue, Indiana's 10-2 season last year kind of pushes IU up above the Boilermakers, who won 1 game last year against Indiana State. Exactly. 11-2. Excuse me. Yes, 11-2.
Zach Browning from the Hoosier.com. Zach, not only is Zach is doing an incredible job covering both football and basketball, but Alec Lasley and Kyler Staley and Drew Rosenberg and Colin McMahon are absolutely killing it. I cannot keep up. I can hardly read the articles that are coming out each day. And yesterday, Alec Lasley had the exclusive with the new Serbian player for Indiana. So make sure you go there and get right now, $1 for the first month, 50% off for the first year. Subscribe to the Hoosier.com. Help support these guys. Zach, appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks so much, Jim. Always happy to be here.
Appreciate you very much. More coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more.
with a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music. You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Glad to have you along. Indiana Sports Beat Radio, Jim Coyle with you as always. Looking forward to talking to Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star in a little bit, and then of course the captain Rick Bozich. Or actually, I may have screwed that up and double booked them because Rick's got to get out of here early today. But if they do, then we'll just do them both together. So since he's retiring, it'd be like a send-off. But getting back to what Brett Bielema, the Illinois head coach, was saying about the difference between the Big Ten and the SEC playing 9 and 8 games is he said, I don't think that there's any way we can do a 16-team playoff if they're not at 9. He also referred to conversations coming out of the SEC spring meetings in Florida, where LSU coach Brian Kelly suggested an SEC Big Ten non-league challenge. Now that would certainly solve that, and it would bring some excitement. But the only worry would be, having lopsided games. If they, scheduling makes it difficult, but if you could somehow, match them up. But the thing is, with the transfer portal, that's damn near impossible to do. So, I mean, it would be pot luck, to be honest with you. Say, Purdue drawing Alabama. What's that going to be like? Right now, at least. So we'll see how that goes. But we voted unanimously as Big Ten coaches to stay at 9 league games and actually maybe have an SEC challenge. Wow. The Big Ten coaches voted to stay at 9 plus accept an SEC challenge. Holy smokes. Bielema says, I was told they voted unanimously. Boy, I can't get that one out today. To stay at 8 and not play the Big Ten. But then some people pop off and say they want to say because they want to look a certain way, whatever. Getting into that stuff. I get it, but I think until you get to 9 for everybody, I don't think it could work. And I agree. You're comparing apples and oranges. Especially because of the CFP and how that is looked at. It's just not, everything should just be the same. The SEC needs to quit bitching and moaning all the time and having to have everything their way, having to have 4 guaranteed spots in the playoff because they didn't belong in the playoff last year. Now, were there an SEC team or two that would have put in before Arizona State or Boise State? Absolutely. To me, that's ridiculous because anytime you're going to include a team that is not a top level team, it's like, giving everybody a trophy. So we'll see. I don't know that the SEC will budge, but the fact that they wanted to stay at 8 and not play the Big Ten, I'm like, gee whiz. They have to at least go to 9 games. I don't care if they play the Big Ten. Leave that for the postseason and the bowl games. I'm fine with that. It would be cool. Certainly. I mean, boy, think about some crossover matches. Indiana and Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. That would be interesting. Auburn, all those big time teams. The man of the hour. I was just talking about Brett Bielema and his statements, just flat out statements that unless the SEC goes to 9 games, he doesn't see how a 16-team playoff would work. But we've got bigger and better things to talk about right now. I doubt you saw the thumbnail for the show today, but I put you in a little rocking chair. It wasn't easy to do, but I'm like, all right, I think I get it in there good enough. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Earlier in the show, Rick Bozich, a multiple, I think 3-time Hall of Famer, 50-year career as a sports journalist, one of the absolute best in the country, much less in our region. We have been so lucky to have people like you and Pat Forty down in Louisville and your coworker, Eric Crawford. I mean, WDRB has been extraordinarily lucky to have you two guys. But not to make you feel old, but I looked up to you when I was a kid. I read the paper every day when I was being a freshman every day. And I didn't just read the sports section, but that was the first section. And I read it all. And man, you were there. I remember having my family having a subscription to the Louisville Times, which was the old afternoon paper in Louisville that got canceled 1,000 years ago. But you have been I don't know that people realize the blessing. And the thing I said earlier is I don't know how a columnist can go as long as you have, and I know you'll have a different opinion on this, but just not really piss off people. I mean, I know that Louisville people thought you were Kentucky side and Kentucky people thought you were Louisville sided, but you just never really seem to piss people off. And that's almost impossible to do as a columnist, but you did it.
Well, thank you for all the kind words, Jim. I appreciate it and appreciate your friendship. Now I pissed plenty of people off in my day. I mean, I still don't know who did it, but there was an IU fan who once left a dead fish in my mailbox after I wrote something about Coach Knight. I've had bottles put underneath my tires in the parking lot at a football game. That wasn't at Indiana. That was at Kentucky.
How do they know what car was yours?
They must have saw me when I got out of the car before the game to go to the press box and made a note of doing it after the game. I don't know. Rick Pitino screamed at me many, many times. In fact, one time I took my previous Labrador Retriever, Raja, to Seneca Park, and it was really hot. And I gave him some water, and we got in the car, and Raja was in the back seat, panting the way Labrador Retrievers pant when they're really hot. And Pitino called and was yelling at me for like a minute. And then he stopped and goes, "What's that in your car? Sounds like somebody's dying." I said, "Coach, that's my dog. He still loves me."
What was he yelling at you about?
Oh, I'd written something. It was back during the Karen Cipher stuff. I think he didn't like some.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's not a rocking chair, David. It's a leather chair. But yeah. Oh, he got really mad at me. 2000. It was after all the last scandal broke, and he played that game in Rupp, and he decided he wasn't going to do the post-game press conference. He says he told Kenny Klein that in advance. And that was the game when he walked off the court. He flipped the Kentucky fans the bird.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wrote a column saying that Calipari not only outcoached him, he outclassed him. And I think what happened is that game was during like Christmas break, and the bus got back to Louisville, and I think he flew to Miami, and who knows, he might have had a couple of cocktails. And when he got to Miami, somebody told him what I had written, and he started texting me at 11:17 at night. And the more he texted, the madder he got. It was like, I just said, Coach, I've seen you talk after you've lost games before. All you had to do is talk for 5 minutes. I told you before the game I wasn't going to do it, and now you've hit me below the belt, and I'm going to hit you below the belt.
Oh,
Like, oh, okay. And if I told you the story about Knight, right? The first time I interviewed Knight, was a senior at the Daily Student, and they were getting ready to play Purdue. They were undefeated that year, best team in the country until Scott May broke his arm. And somehow I think Kit Klingelhofer got me a one-on-one with Knight, and it was downstairs on the floor in that little room off where the visiting teams running off the court there, and that would be the southwest corner of the building. He used to call it the cave. Coaches used to sit in there and watch film and stuff. So I walk in there, I had my winter coat on and everything, and he was sitting there, and I asked him the first question. It was something about Purdue, and he gave me an answer that wasn't memorable. And then he was untying his Converse All-Stars tennis shoes. And I asked him the second question. It was also about Purdue, and he goes, if you've got so many blankety-blank questions about Purdue, why don't you get in your blankety-blank car and drive your blankety-blank butt up to West Lafayette and ask blankety-blank Fred Schaus, who was the Purdue coach at the time. And at that point, he had me, and I was like, okay, Coach, thanks. And that was the end of the interview.
yeah. Can you imagine if Bob Knight would have had texting?
No, or cell phones, with video and stuff when he was coaching? No. So all it would have taken is one student manager thinking he could have hit the lottery on TMZ, of putting one of those up on TMZ, and it would have been over.
The restaurant in Louisville where Rick Pitino had his tryst, I may have mentioned this to you before, but the night that story broke, I was living in Louisville at the time, and it wasn't that far from, I'm like less than 10 minutes. So I would go there every Wednesday night because they had like some pizza special and blah, blah, and just sit there and read the paper. And there was like nobody in there, and it's, 10 o'clock, a little after 10. And I see the WHAS TV van, which is the ABC affiliate in Louisville, pull up across the street and just kind of, they park there, and I can see they're setting up. And I was like, well, that's odd, because there's nothing right there where this restaurant is other than, this restaurant. And then there's some other things, but I just kept thinking that was odd. And then it got to 11 o'clock and we had it on WHAS because we were curious. Bam. That's when the story broke.
Wow.
And they're sitting there talking about all that. And I'm like, my jaw hit the ground because I'm sitting in the restaurant where this took place. And it was just me and the bartender and, maybe somebody else, but that was a surreal moment.
Yeah. That one, it was a famous story during that one. Several months, I don't know how long it was. It was in May or June after that story broke. And then Eric and I have been trying to talk to Pitino, and he finally agreed to talk to us on a Saturday afternoon. And Kenny Klein told us to meet him at such and such a place. So Eric and I were driving there, and right in the middle of the drive, Kenny calls and said, no, we need to change it and go to the Starbucks over there by the paddock shops. And because Rick thinks somebody from the New York Post is following him. So he had to ditch them. So we showed up and we sat outside at the Starbucks, Eric and I, and literally like out of the bushes, here comes Rick Pitino with sunglasses on, a baseball cap, sunglasses, like he doesn't want anybody to recognize him. And he sat there, we talked to him for like 20 minutes, and then he goes, see those guys at that table over there? And I go, yeah. He goes, I think they're from the New York Post. They're trying to listen into our conversation. I got to go. And he got up and left.
Why do he should have done that during the FBI investigation into all of college basketball. Oh man,
so many.
I can tell you one coach that never yelled at you. It was Denny Crum.
No, he didn't. He didn't yell at anybody. He didn't care.
He was the most amazing guy. I was an intern slash employee at WLKY, the CBS station in Louisville, and it was Christmas Eve, and I think it was Fred Cowgill sent me over, go get a soundbite with Denny. And so I get there, they're practicing in the, I guess it's the same facility they are now, but so I get in, and then I realize, I left my stupid light outside, for the camera deal. I got to go back outside, get that. Well, now I can't get back in. The doors are locked, and it's Christmas Eve, and there's nobody around. And it takes me like 45 minutes to get back in. Well, now practice has started. I think they just got their crap kicked out of them by somebody. So Denny puts them through like a 3-hour practice. And then afterwards he comes over, just saunters over, says, "You need to speak to me?" And yes, sir, coach, if you wouldn't mind. But I got to spend a Christmas Eve just sitting there, not wanting to be at a Louisville practice, but yet he was certainly a different breed.
I mean, he never closed practice. I mean, and I didn't like to go a lot, but I'd go occasionally, and you could go and watch practice, and it wasn't any big deal. Crum's philosophy was, I'm a better coach than you are, and these are the guys I got. And if I coach them to do what they're supposed to do, they're going to win. And if we don't win, it's I didn't coach them well enough, or the other team was just better. I'm not going to play all these games of secrecy. Schnellenberger was the same way. He got mad if you didn't come to practice.
Oh, he loved that's because he loved the attention, man.
Oh, yeah.
Mercy.
He called me at home one day and said, "Where were you today?" I said, "What do you mean, coach?" He goes, "Well, the New York Times, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, the Chicago Tribune, and the Miami Herald were all at practice, and you weren't there." It's like, really?
I was there for one of the greatest quotes ever.
The University of Louisville is on a collision course with a national championship. The only variable is time.
I mean, who thinks that? I mean, like, who thinks that? And it was awesome. It's still awesome today. I mean, I love that quote, man.
Yes, it is.
But he really believed it. He believed in what he was doing, and he turned that program around and really got it.
He was great at messaging. I mean, that's one of the big differences in the business today, is that back in those days with even Joe Hall or, Coach Crum, Howard Schnellenberger, Bill Curry, there wasn't so much of the paranoia that there is today, and there wasn't so much of the limiting of the access as there is today. And I've mentioned this before, but, the locker rooms used to be open. So you'd go to UK and you could talk to Kenny Walker, you could talk to Jim Master or Sam Bowie, and over the course of 2 or 3 years, they'd know who you were, and they'd know, I can trust this guy, I can't trust this guy. And then when they were gone, they would know you. The same thing at Louisville. I mean, Jerry Eves, Griff, Purvis, Kenny Payne, LeBradford Smith, all these guys, you got to know them over time. And even at IU, I mean, I was in school with Buckner. I can text Buckner today and ask him a question. I'm not saying we're like really close, but he knows who I am. We talk when we see each other. Tom Abernathy, I consider a friend. Jim Cruz, I know. The other day when I announced my retirement, Steve Alfeld reached out to me with a text message. It's not that way today. Lamar Jackson played at Louisville for 3 years. We never got a single one-on-one interview with him ever. So it's a different world. You know how it is. I mean, when you're at football at IU is better because they bring out a variety of players. A larger number of them, they stand around the room and you can pick and choose who you want to talk to. But for basketball, it's pretty much useless because, first of all, those guys are up at the podium and they're self-conscious. And secondly, you can't ever ask to really develop a story. You need to ask 2 or 3 or 4 questions in a row and you get one. And there's just an element of, it's not tension, but it's like, it's not a comfortable environment. And if you went last year, I'm sure, to the Big Ten tournament, then they finally opened the locker room. It's different. You can walk around. I know when IU went to Albany, it was different. We could go in the locker rooms and talk to the players as human beings. And that's one of the changes I dislike in the media the most, that the schools now are so controlling. And it's not just Indiana and Louisville, it's everywhere.
And they're not just controlling, they're putting out a ton of content
Yes, they are.
themselves, which
Drive people to their website.
Is which is direct competition for those of us who do this for a living. But it is not the same at all, and it's not even close. I will say that I took the opportunity at Huber's, toward the end. That's the greatest time of year is Huber's, because you get to be around some of the players in a very relaxed atmosphere and the coaches in a relaxed atmosphere. You don't necessarily get to have a long conversation, but you may have a brief conversation with them, interaction. But I did ask Darren, I said, hey man, I said, they always have practices closed. I said, just let us into a practice or two. I'm like, I'm not, expecting you to put us in or let us in when you're game planning for Michigan or whatever. But I wanted to say, what's the big deal? What's the national secret? But we'll see how I'll remind him again. He said, I think he said, I'll work on that.
Yeah. I mean,
and I wonder how much IU, if a coach came here from that had open practices and all that, and he came here, I wonder if they would be herded into a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is everybody would have to agree if you come into practice. I mean, guys couldn't be sitting in assembly hall like having conversations and stuff. You're going to sit there and watch practice and keep your mouth shut. Secondly, you'd have to have like no cell phones, no video. Anything that happens is not going to be reported or any of that stuff. And sometimes that happens, and there's always one knucklehead who breaks the rules, and then everybody suffers because of it. But yeah, I think it'd be great if everybody could go to a practice. Most of us don't know enough about basketball that we can see something that they're doing that would compromise the chances of a team to win. I mean, I don't know.
I've had this question pop up like 4 times already by different people, so I'm gonna go ahead and pop it up. Will you still be able to come on the show at all?
I think I'll come on occasionally, but I don't think I'm going to come on every week. In July, I'm going to try and get away from it all for a while and relax, decompress. My wife and I are going to a trip to North Carolina.
Where are you going?
Up in the mountains, a place called Highlands, where it's higher elevation and cooler when it's really hot here.
Oh yeah.
Going to take my grandson, Alex's son, to Chicago for a Sox game.
Oh, nice.
Going to do some other things, so I'm going to take a break for a while, but we can talk again in August or whatever.
It will not be the same. I have been so fortunate to have you with us, and prior to that, I also had Terry Hutchins, and man, do I miss being able to talk to him and have him on. It took me so long, and I don't know that I ever did, but to really gauge, because he had such a dry sense of humor. Yeah. He spoke in a deadpan way. I could never tell when he was kidding. And it was like, oh man, it was hard, but he was a great guy and a great writer.
Yeah, it was.
Of course, but
that was so sad for his family and his friends in the media.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes when I come, the press room is pretty full, and they give me the Terry Hutchins seat. It always stirs up all the memories of games I covered with Hutch, or things he would do, or pranks he would pull, or things like that.
Give me some examples, some prank examples.
I'm not going to mention any name, but there was once a member of the media who covered IU that some of the other people in the room thought this guy was not a big proponent of using deodorant, and so Hutch bought 3 or 4 sticks of deodorant and stuck them in his backpack.
Oh man, that's not exactly subtle.
Or he would tell somebody something that wasn't really true, and they'd be trying to figure out if it was true, and he'd wait until they got all worked up, and they tell him, "Nah, just kidding."
He was a character, and like I said, he's no longer with us, unfortunately. But even though you will be, but still, it won't be the same. But the industry won't be the same. The Louisville market and Indiana is losing almost something that's and I mean this, irreplaceable, because you grew up in Indiana, you went to school at IU, but you've been and were in Louisville, where you were able to cover Louisville and Kentucky and Indiana, the Derby, the PGA, all the things you went to, Super Bowls and everything else. There's not many markets that have someone like that, and to have had him as long as we've had you, it's man, you can't replace that. I feel sorry for whomever is going to step into your shoes.
It'll probably just be Eric for a long time, and he's fabulous. He is
great.
He's the most talented multi-platform journalist I've ever worked with, and what I mean by that is he takes phenomenal pictures.
He's always got his camera, man. When I was at Derby, always had his camera.
We a lot of times when we go on the road, sometimes the photographer doesn't come with us, so Eric can do video. He sets up our show on WDRB every Monday, which is on WDRB Plus. He set up podcasts during COVID. He set up all the StreamYard stuff. I mean, he gets the new media landscape. He's involved in all the Instagram and all the other platforms, and so Eric is my go-to guy. And I'll say this, I mean, that's going to be the hardest part for me, is not being with Eric every day. So we've been together now about 25 years, and I don't consider him a friend. I consider him my brother. And back in 2015, I had some stomach issues, and I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. And,
no guts.
He came to visit me pretty much every day. And that's the kind of guy he is.
And if you grew up in Louisville, Southern Indiana, you knew his father was
Byron
was also, yeah,
Charles Carrault before Charles Carrault.
On the road with Byron. I'm Byron Crawford on the road.
He'd go to any some town, there would be like 78 people there, and he'd find some kid who played an imaginary harmonica or something. Eric's shown me some of the stories. I mean,
before I forget, I do have to mention our good friend Fulton. He is our Special Olympics competitor. He is going to be opening up with his ukulele for Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Wow.
I mean,
Congrats,
how
Fulton.
about them apples? I'm trying to find, there we go. Mr. Fulton Mraz. Must be Jason Mraz's brother. He's going to be on stage with Earth, Wind, and Fire, and he is going to play his ukulele with the song September at White River State Park in Indianapolis.
Very cool.
Man,
Congrats.
maybe standing room only for that, man.
That's a big, that was one of my favorite bands in their heyday. I saw them in Market Square Arena.
Do you remember? Absolutely. What is your best Bob Knight story?
Oh man.
Or stories.
I don't know if this is my best Bob Knight story, but it's my funniest. Back in my senior year in college at IU, Coach Knight would let the student newspaper reporters travel with the team. So one year we went to, it was an Iowa-Minnesota road trip. Iowa on Saturday, Minnesota on Monday. And that was the season that for the first time IU was a national story, and they were undefeated. And Curry Kirkpatrick got sent to do a story on IU, and he wrote the story about Knight and talked about how good the team was. But the way he described Knight didn't like it. He said when the players were in Hawaii, they didn't have any fun. They were dining on bread and water. That Knight, when he got mad, would howl at the moon. He called him a rampaging martinet, which I had to look up, and it means like a taskmaster. So Knight was fuming about that story, and we flew to Iowa. And we bussed to the hotel, and it was time to get your bags out from under the bus. So I reached down for my bag, and when I got off, he put me in a headlock and started giving me a Dutch rub. And he said, who's your favorite sports writer? And I said, not Curry Kirkpatrick. I said, Bob Hamill. And he let go, and he goes, good answer.
Good answer.
And then he told one of the student managers, he goes, make sure this kid gets a nice room. So at this hotel, and this is waterbeds were in fashion back then. I got a room in Iowa City with a waterbed because Coach Knight liked.
Did you get the heart tub and everything?
I don't think I had that, and I couldn't have done anything with it anyway. But I was just there. That was the famous. The trip before that was Northwestern and Wisconsin. We went to Northwestern first, and I'd never traveled with the team before. And about 10 o'clock at night, the night before the game, somebody knocks on the door, and it was like milk and some brownies and a cookie. And I didn't know who ordered them. And I talked to Larry Sherfick, who was the student manager at the time, and he said, yeah, Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski, the graduate assistant, was in charge of making sure everybody got the snack, and he included you on the list. So anytime I saw Coach K later in my career, I said, I knew you when you were giving out cookies and milk to the student newspaper reporter. And he would laugh.
A little add-on irony to that, when Curry Kirkpatrick was doing that, he was in Bloomington for a game in the press room, and I was an absolute peon at WLKY, and so, but I would get to come up and cover every game. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go cover it. So I would go cover every game and shoot it. I asked a question, the first question I ever asked. I got it. I got the courage up and I was in the back of the room, and it took all that I had to ask, but it was just a normal question and a question that had an obvious answer. But what I guess Knight did not care about is nobody cares if one of us or somebody else says it. They want to hear you say it. But anyway, I asked the question, and he didn't like it. So that ended the press conference. That was it.
There was one.
Apparently, and I had a good friend with me on the other side, and he reminded me of this later. He said, Curry Kirkpatrick turned to me and said, I thought it was a good question.
Well, there was a famous incident during the Olympic trials when it might have been the press conference right before they announced the team, and Knight saw Kirkpatrick was in the room, and he said unless he left, there wasn't going to be any press conference. And I felt, Bill Benner and I and others felt bad afterwards that we should have all walked out and not let him do that to Curry. But Curry said, I'm going to go so these guys can get their job done. He left. Yeah, that was some real tension there.
Well, what would you think it would have been like with the now deceased John Feinstein?
Yeah.
That would have been even worse.
I think Feinstein wrote something that they patched it up like 10 years later to the point where they could at least, say hello to each other.
Well, the funny thing is, you knew that what he wrote was true. He's not fabricating anything. And I don't know why Knight would have thought that he was going to filter all that stuff out. That's what makes a book, man.
The two things that Knight miscalculated was one, to think that he wasn't going to quote the profanity was being naive. And secondly, I don't think Knight understood that the more he complained about the book and the more people he talked to about the book, it helped
more sales,
sell more books.
Yes.
I got to read this. What's making him so mad? What's in there? And
it was a great read back when I was young, man. I went right through it.
Man. Once it got going, it might be the greatest selling sports book of all time. It's got to be in the top 4 or 5. And it made Feinstein's career. That was like his first bestseller. He ended up doing A Good Walk Spoiled and 30 other books.
All came from A Season on the Brink. And what a great name. The Hall of Famer Rick Bozich is with us.
He's getting ready to get in his rocking chair. We'll take a break. Before that happens, though, we're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC, local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's C-O-Y-L-E, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. The Hall of Famer Rick Bozich from WDRB.com for another week and a half, I guess. Was this a decision that was in the works, or did you just finally say, you know what? All right.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while, and I'll be honest, a couple things happened this year that hit me pretty hard. Is that Junior Bridgman, who is my age, watched him play in high school basketball. He died back in April, I think it was, of a heart attack. And you mentioned just John Feinstein, who was several years younger than I am, died of a heart attack in the shower at his brother's house as he was covering the A10 tournament. Now, I'm not saying I have any heart problems or anything like that, but I've been doing this a long time, and my family sacrificed a lot of time, a lot of weekends being gone, and it's just time to slow down. I'm sure I'll be writing. I'm not sure where, but I just won't be doing it as much. And, we'll see what happens. Never know what road you're going to take.
Unfortunately, where you are there in Louisville, boy, access to a lot of great events, whether it's, the University of Louisville, University of Kentucky, Indiana, within proximity. The PGA will never come back to Louisville, but Churchill Downs, and just so much more. Do you think they'll ever have another major event at Valhalla?
They say they will. I'm not sure they will. I mean,
I don't know if they even get the WPGA or LPGA seniors.
I mean, they'll get some events like that, I think. But in terms of another PGA, I doubt if I'll be around to see it. I don't know. It's the fact that PGA of America sold that golf course after owning it. That doesn't send a message to me that
doesn't bode well.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be honest, PGA is the 4th on the pecking order of the majors, and I think one way they could try and improve its prestige is put it at more at courses that are more historic than Valhalla is.
Indiana, a book. You have to write a book.
I've been encouraged to do that by several people. I'm going to think about that during the.
You cannot keep all that you have in that noggin, all of those stories, all of those experiences. Though that is just
great stuff. I mean, I could sit here and listen to the stories all day, and I know you could tell them all day. So that is a must. Just give me like a 2 sentences.
2 sentences of a book, all the place.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the day I thought I was going to die in Candlestick Park because I was sitting in the upper deck with Joe Biddle, and the stadium started shaking during the earthquake. I thought that was the end.
You were in the upper deck in 1989?
Yes, I was. Me and Joe Biddle.
Why were you in the upper deck?
It's in the auxiliary press box when you cover the World Series and you're not from a major league team.
Man.
And I was sitting there, and my good friend Joe Biddle, who actually passed away a few years ago down in Nashville, and we usually hung out together. And the building started swaying. Noticed the scoreboard in left field went to hieroglyphics, and you could feel the swaying. And I thought the upper deck was going to collapse, and it didn't. And then I got up, I started walking away, and Joe said, "Where are you going, man?" I said, "I don't know." He goes, "You ain't going anywhere. That was an earthquake. Sit down." And fortunately, do you know Mike Lepresti?
I know who he is.
Yeah, he was there covering it for USA Today and Gannett, and I think we found like one payphone that was working. I didn't have a cell phone. 89, I don't think cell phones were universal. I'm pretty sure they weren't. And somehow I got a message to my family that I was okay, because people didn't know the feed on ABC went off the air. And it took us we were staying in Oakland, and it took us like 5 hours in the car to get back. It took us like half an hour to get there and 5 hours to get back, because there was so much turmoil around the city. And then Joe and I stayed in Oakland for 2 or 3 more days, and then we came home because the World Series didn't start again for like over a week. And I wasn't just going to hang around in a hotel room in Oakland for a week, and the paper didn't want to pay for that. That'd be one.
Didn't want to hang out in Oakland? No, that's surprising.
It was okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. The famous story of when 40 and I covered the Christian Laettner game, and we had those Radio Shack computers that had the black and white screens that you put batteries in, and you had to have a coupler with it that you connected the phone through a coupler, and then the computer had to dial the number, and our computers were always programmed to dial an 8 to get an outside line. But in Philadelphia, for some reason, you had to dial a 7 to get an outside line. And we were terrified that after the game, we weren't going to be able to file our stories because we couldn't get it to dial the right phone number, which that was still the greatest game I've ever seen. The people ask me like the greatest events I've ever seen. That was one. To me, the most compelling thing I've ever seen was the Carl Lewis Ben Johnson 100-meter dash in Seoul, South Korea, where the entire stadium, everybody was standing, and then they got really quiet until they shot the starter's pistol, and then you watch those two guys race, and Ben Johnson ended up beating him, and then he got disqualified for steroid abuse. I was fortunate to go to Muhammad Ali's last fight in the Bahamas. It was in an abandoned airfield in the Bahamas, and they didn't have like some of the right equipment. They rang a cowbell to start and end the rounds. They didn't have
you got to have more cowbell. I need more cowbell, man.
So that was fun. I don't know, just so many. My favorite athlete, this will be probably one that many wouldn't expect, is Mary T. Maher, who was a swimmer from Louisville, who
Madam Butterfly
set the world record in the 100 and 200 meter butterfly. But what I really admired about her was that when she was at her absolute peak in 1980, she didn't get to go to the Olympics because the U.S. boycotted. She came back in 84 and went to L.A. and won 3 gold medals. But people said, you know what? The Russians weren't there and the East Germans weren't there and such weren't there. It's really nice, but wasn't like a real Olympics. So she trained for 4 more years to go back to Seoul, South Korea, and she didn't win any gold medals there. She might have won one in a relay. I don't remember, but she finished 3rd, I think, in her signature event. And it was such a lesson in perseverance and class and competitiveness, the way she handled it all. instead of like being bitter, she wasn't bitter. She was thankful for the opportunity. So just to be around somebody like that at a young point in my career, who was A, so talented, and B, so mature. I mean, that was great for me. Jim Fregosi, there's another one. He was he ended up being the White Sox manager, but he managed the Redbirds here for 3.5 years.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
And I'll tell the story real quick. He knew I liked baseball, and I'd go out there a lot. And if you like baseball, and he was sure that you liked baseball, he would talk baseball with you. So one year, it was 85. The Cubs had won the division the previous year, and they started Sean Dunston at shortstop, and he didn't do very well, so they sent him back to the minors. And I went out to Old Cardinal Stadium and told Fregosi what I was going to do, and how hard is it for a guy breaking into major leagues, because Fregosi was an all-star shortstop with the Angels. So I went over to the Iowa Cubs locker room and waited for Dunston, and he came out, and I introduced myself, and he said, "I ain't doing no interviews, man." And I said, "Okay, how about if I get you after batting practice?" So he went out and did batting practice. He came back in and said, "Hey, I ain't doing no interviews, man." And so I said, "Okay." So I was walking back across the field from the first base line to the third base line, and Fregosi was in the dugout. And he said, "How'd the interview go?" I said, Not very well." He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, he wouldn't talk to me. He said, "What?" I said, "No." He said he wasn't doing no interviews. And Fregosi was old school. It's like, he ain't doing no interviews. That's part of your job. Part of your job is to talk to the press. So he got one of the clubhouse guys to go get Kevin Hagan, who was the starting pitcher that night. And Kevin Hagan came into the dugout, and he goes, "Do you know my man, Rick here?" He goes, "Yeah, I know him." He goes, "He's a good dude." He goes, "Tell him what Sean Dunston did." So I told him. He goes, he looked at the lineup card. He said, "Dunston's hitting first tonight." He goes, "As soon as he gets in the batter's box, I want you to knock him on his ass." And I was like, oh my gosh, what have I started here? So I walked down the third base line at Old Cardinal Stadium. There was no elevator. I walked through the concourse. I go up to the press box, which hung from the top of the roof. Remember where it was there?
Oh yeah,
And,
I've been in it.
I'm sitting in there, and Dunston's up, and the first pitch went behind him over his head. And I
You caused a knockdown. You caused a knockdown, baby.
I looked down out of the press box, and Fregosi was in the dugout, and he looked up at the press box and went,
"That's got to be one of the most amazing things ever." That is just crazy and so old school.
Of course it
I
was.
mean, it
When
is
Fregosi,
so
he
old
knew I was a
school.
White Sox fan. Hawk Harrelson fired Tony La Russa in the summer of I think it was 85. Maybe it was 86. I don't remember. And Fregosi gave me the heads up. He goes, "They're going to name me the White Sox manager. You want to come with me to Chicago?" I said, "Well, of course I do." So I flew up with him on Sunday morning to Chicago, and we got to O'Hare and rode the cab with him to the press conference. And he told me I could spend the first night with him in Chicago before I went back home, but I didn't. But
Were you
he
going to
became
share
a friend
beds?
for the rest of my life. Actually, the last time I saw Fregosi, I was at the Marriott in downtown Chicago. I was up there, might have been for the Big Ten Media Day football. And I was sitting in the concierge lounge eating breakfast, the free breakfast they have. And Fregosi back then was a big scout for the Atlanta Braves. And he walked in the concierge lounge, and I was reading a newspaper, eating my oatmeal. And I hear this voice across the room. He goes, "I'll be damned. Are they still paying you to write that shit you write in Louisville?" I turned around, and there he was, and gave me a big hug. And that's what I'm talking about. The difference in the world now is back then. I don't know. You could form relationships with coaches and players, and it's changed now.
Without question, it has, and not for the better, but grateful to have you when it wasn't that. I mean, Steve, this is why you don't even really have a choice. You have to write a book.
Well, you get me the publisher and the agent and all that stuff.
Oh, I will guarantee.
I actually did go. I have a friend named Mike Tackett. You probably don't know him. He's a graduate from IU in 1980. He was the Washington D.C. bureau chief for the Chicago Tribune. Now he works for the AP, and he was here over the weekend. He did a book on Senator Mitch McConnell, and they had a Kentucky Authors Forum downtown, and he's been encouraging me to write a book. And so I'll probably get with Mike and see what's going on. I'll do something. I'm like I said, I'm not parking the car. I'm just going to drive in a slower lane.
I hear you. Either
right.
way, it's it's a great loss for all of us, but we have been so fortunate. And man, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you taking your time that you have taken to be with us as long as you have.
You got a lot of avid viewers because I show up at events and they tell me they watch and they really enjoy your show. So I appreciate you.
Well, it's because of
the
you,
exposure and the conversations. And
well,
I'm sure I'll see
that's
you
because of people like you.
Well, it's people like you also, and you give people a great platform, and to have my respect for Kyle Neddenriep to be after him is immense. I think he's a tremendous high school writer. So
he might be he is one of the best in the country. I mean,
he is.
The vast amount that he has to cover, I'm like, it's mind-boggling. So
he knows everything about almost every sport in the state of Indiana. He's an old school journalist with a capital J,
and he's another book writer in the coming future, without question, man. Well, right, brother, enjoy your day. Thank you again, and
we'll talk next week
so we can talk. Enjoy it. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for all your kind words,
brother. Appreciate you. Appreciate
Thanks
your
everybody out there,
man.
All right, bye-bye.
Rick Bozich, the Hall of Famer from WDRB.com. He's written for ESPN. He is just, man, wow. He is. I meant to tell him, and I kept forgetting. I didn't write it down. That of all of our guests, which I love, but I said this earlier. He's the one that I looked forward to talking to each week, because I knew it was going to be fun, engaging, entertaining, educated, and just all of those things. And it's because of him. So that's why I try to have as good a guest as I can on, man, because ain't nobody tuning in for me, baby. But we've got more coming up. Got to take a quick pause for the cause. Back with it from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Thank you so much for being with us. I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you guys, no matter where or how you're listening. And if it is on social media, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. You know how to do it, all that good stuff. It is a benefit to us, and we greatly appreciate you. And man, what a fun day. And it just, I'm not going to lie to you, man. It's sad. I really, really love Rick to death. I love getting to be around him at games. I'm going to miss that. I know I will see him, but he's, when I say one of the greats, he is truly one of the all-time greats as a writer, as a person. And he has juggled, like I said, covering IU, Louisville, Kentucky, all of this time. You know how hard that is? That's crazy. I appreciate all the kind words from everybody as well. But like I said, it's all about the guests, baby. Ain't nobody tuning in to hear me, brother. But I'm so grateful. And boy, I'll tell you something I was thinking of before I forget and before we run out of time. If there's a group of people that would have an interest in having an ISB media get together, either for an away game in football, but I've got to be careful because I'll probably be going to most of them, or just a get together period at, say, Hard Truth Distillery Company in Nashville. You know how to reach me. There's several ways of messaging. Send the messages and I'll get them, or just comment right here on the social media side, the YouTube side, if you can. But that would be kind of fun. I've had some people mention it to me before. So if there's interest, absolutely we'll do it. And no better place than the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Nashville. Man, that would be a great place to get something going. Great place to watch a game as well, as is Bubba's 33 in Clarksville for our Southern Indiana listeners. And if you need a dentist, our good friend Dr. J at Reynolds Family Dentistry down there in Sellersburg. It's Todd Leary's personal dentist. It's my personal dentist. He is the official dentist of ISB Radio. But yeah, make sure you support all of our sponsors. That's you know, we can't do this stuff for free. Covering these events and all of that stuff. And I'll be honest with you, the best thing you could do is be a subscriber to the Hoosier.com. $1 off for the first month, 50% off of the first year, and breaking stories, exclusive interviews like with the new Serbian player, Aleksa, out right now. That's free to everyone, actually. So you can go pull that up and find that. Alec Lasley did a tremendous job getting that story, as he will join Aleksa, rather, will join Indiana later on. He is still playing with his team that he was already playing for, and they've got some things to finish. And after that, I think that's in around July, he'll join. But appreciate everybody for joining us on the program today. It's been a fun one. We're back tomorrow to do it again from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. I'm Jim Coyle. Go out and have yourselves an absolutely fantastic day. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.